Okay, so again, hello and welcome everybody on this webinar tonight. It's going to be pretty full packed on. We have Bill Rowell, our founder and CEO of Utopian Global, joining us. We do also have in a little while the CEO of STORH joining us, and we're going to talk about, besides the presentation, obviously about the distributions, the payouts, the upcoming payouts for these folks who bought STORH before April, who are expecting their distribution. So we're going to talk about that. Hello, Joanne. Hello, Robbie. Hello, everybody who is actually writing here and saying hello. It's fantastic to have you all on board here. So I hope you can all see clearly, of course, my presentation here. Yes, and hear me. Yes, you can. Fantastic. Again, hello to everybody from all around the world. Well, let's get it going. I'm just going to go quickly over, because we have a lot of new people on the board as well as usually. So I'm just going to go very quick over what Utopian Global is, the Utopian Global ecosystem, obviously, so which is a unique marketing platform for physical precious metals since really 11 years, and income producing assets. STORH, that's the product we have just launched. We are still actually in pre-launch, acquiring, really just starting to acquire assets for that. And obviously our affiliate marketing program and a professional education system. That's the Utopian Global ecosystem in a nutshell, providing you, of course, with these great products. Now, our founder and CEO, Bill Rowell, he himself, he's a licensed precious metals dealer. That is why also the company is in Dubai, because it is licensed for precious metals there. So this is why Dubai, and everything really started some long time ago when Bill, a successful entrepreneur, hotel owner, when he sold his last hotel and was looking for passive income, for passive investments. And he was introduced to Philip Judge. Philip Judge, as you see him here in the middle, he's in the gold market, a very, very known person. He made a documentary. Actually, he owned the largest TV or not TV, video production company in Australia, Australia Fair. And he's basically very much in the gold market, but he also wrote and produced an amazing documentary, Millennium Money, which he interviewed all the Ron Paul, who ran for presidency. You probably know him in US, of course, politics, and many people from GATA, Gold Market, Gold Antitrust Committee, and so on. And so actually, Philip Judge, he speaks at the World's Gold Council, so he's really much in the gold. He owns a large gold bullion bank, a physical gold fund, and he introduced Bill to precious metals, and also to energy, to oil and gas, and to this young man, which we're going to have on the call in a few minutes from now, Ryan Messer. And Bill basically invested into that energy fund, a large figure, $1 million Australian dollar figure, basically. Why? Because this asset was producing him around 20% return. I did also invest in it just a few years later than him, but really the foundation of the company started there. Why? Well, because Bill was introduced to precious metals, to energy, and he also was very successful in, besides his hotel owning, and network marketing. And so basically Philip had reached out to him 11 years ago. Couldn't we do something through that ingenious concept of really putting power into the ordinary people, putting the power back into their hands by helping them to save and preserve their wealth in precious metals. So that's of course how the story started. So of course Utopian Global, and we have the products from gold or silver from Argo Horizons. Argo Horizons is the leading refinery in the world, the LBMA refinery, and so all our products are certified, I mean, to their purity and standards. And you have an amazing platform where you can, just from as little as 25 euros, save in it. You can accumulate it. You can sell it back whenever you wish. You don't have all those fees. You have a 3% basically on the market, on top of the market, a 3%, which is absolutely amazing. We have physical delivery to the countries we can deliver. So pretty amazing, that platform which Bill has built there. But it really started with everything to understand what gold is and how gold is really represented as a storehouse of value, a store of value. We have a lot of people from different countries in the world here on board right now listening to the call. You all earn a different currency. So you all probably have most of your money in currency and stored somewhere or in a bank, in a deposit. But unfortunately, very few people understand that, you know, to preserve wealth, part of the portfolio should always be precious metals. That's what the wealthy do. That's what the rulers do. That's really those very successful people do. They have always a small portion in gold or silver. Why? Because it preserves as wealth. Why? Your US dollar, your pound, our euro, your peso, or whatever currency is constantly losing its value over time, gold never has done so. Gold always buys you the same goods and services. It did so in Roman times. It did so 100 years ago. You see, with an ounce of gold, you could dress yourself. You can still do today with 1 ounce of gold if you were to sell it, you know, for $1,300, which you would get for an ounce of gold, you could still dress yourself. Yet, had you saved instead the US dollar, well, for $20, which it would be now the ratio, for $20, you couldn't really buy much. Yet, of course, for an ounce of gold, you still can. And so that's the whole point, which we always have put emphasis on when you get into the Utopian global system and you start making money, maybe from the referral commissions, or you have a savings plan. Well, you know, you have to have part of it. It's such an important part is gold or silver. But of course, you also need income. So we need to have actually a vehicle or income producing assets in that sense, which we have just added to it, and that is STORH. STORH is such income producing assets. Why? Well, because it invests in resources that power the world. Well, we speak today here, and I have light on behind me, so that is all using energy. You listening to me here, it is using energy. We need energy for everything. To pull this glass of water, well, we do need energy. To have this cell phone working, well, we do need energy. We literally need energy for everything and anything. Yet, of course, this energy, we need more and more of it. And certainly, it's getting when we look at oil and gas, it's becoming more and more scarcity. So, what of course STORH is doing, and with the knowledge of these folks who are since so many decades in the industry, like Ryan Messer and his team, you will see in a few seconds, they looking of course for people who invest in it, for proven energy and mineral resource assets, which do give then the investor flexibility to diversify, of course, while delivering really solid returns have a high growth potential. Now, right now, we are in the pre-launch phase of it. So right now, all our focus is in what? In accumulating and purchasing assets. So those assets, right now we have 2 assets in STORH, basically, just have been recently purchased on the 4th of March. And they are very, very tiny, small assets, but they have an amazing return. Bill will talk about it. Ryan will talk about it as well. But so at the moment, we are in the very, very early phase of starting. That's why you get the token as a discount price. But once, of course, we have accumulated assets, then, of course, they start to produce, and then, of course, the return is going to kick in. So what we're really doing is here countering investing problems and resources, such as the rising global energy demand, and looking and investing in institutional grade assets which are not on the market, they are not on the open market, but also removing the middleman, the broker, the layers, and giving you That's why you need to sign the PPM, direct ownership in producing assets. So those assets are producing. We give you direct ownership on it. That's why you need to sign the PPM, the private placement memorandum. So the management and the advisory team, you see Philip Judge is still there, who introduced Bill back then to precious metals, but also to energy. He is also on the advisory board of STORH. And we have here Ryan Messer, his partner Randall Addington, and many, many other people. So all those folks, they're expert in their niche, in their industry. So be it from, of course, like Ryan, sourcing amazing producing, income producing assets, evaluating those assets, taking those assets on board, buying them, selling them. Randall Addington, everything which has to do with, of course, sourcing great assets in the midstream sector, which is transportation, blending of crude oil, all this. And then, of course, Philip Judge, which you have here, Robin Anthony Slaughter, in sourcing really great mineral assets, meaning mineral recovery, such as the project which you're going to talk about in Peru. And maybe Ryan is also touching on the new project in Panama they're looking into. So because why? Well, Philip Judge, for example, he's not only that he speaks on the World Gold Council, they ask him to speak there. He just recently spoke in Kuwait. He spoke last year in London. He's going to speak in London again in a few months again, that they ask him to speak on it, on what is the forecast on gold. But he's third generation precious metals. So third generation, meaning his grandfather, he owned gold mines in, I believe in Zimbabwe, Rhodesia back then, and his father was born in Kenya, owned gold mines there. So really understanding the market, the sector, which is very important, because at the end of the day, you want to get involved with a team which are experts in their niche, in their sector. But also when it comes to blockchain and blockchain strategy, and Bill will update us on that. We are just about to very soon now actually release the SAFT basically agreement, which is stands for future tokens, to actually the ERC 223. So that's going to happen now, I believe, very, very soon. So Bill will update on that. So Scott Myers, they are blockchain advisors. Anything which has to do with blockchain, he will be there. He's very, very knowledgeable in that. And we, of course, have a legal team as well. They drafted the very strong written PPM. But also we have, the geologists, advisors, and all those people who also are part owners of the assets we are looking to purchase, which is always a great deal, because when actually people on the board and even geologists are actually invested in having skin in the game, as Bill would say, that is a very, very good sign. So those are the some of the management and advisory team here. But really, when we look into the acquisition strategy for STORH, we have three phases, which is the foundational near-term growth, the mid-term growth, and the long-term growth. So at this point in time, we are just in the very early stage of the foundation near-term growth, meaning right now we are acquiring assets in the foundational assets, of course, which have this near-term growth. So in fact, as Ryan has mentioned or has released with STORH, there was a press release. There were 2 assets purchased, very tiny assets, very small assets, but with an amazing return. And I'm not sure if Bill is on the call. Bill, are you there already? Yes, you are. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that. Great to have you here.
Well, hi, Claudia. Great to be here. Sorry I was a little bit late getting to this call. Ryan's probably joining us now. Let me just see if he's actually there. He won't be too far away. No, he's very busy. No, it's very, very exciting where we are right now. So Ryan's will be coming out with announcements from STORH, I believe, maybe tomorrow. We'll probably touch on it tonight. But as you can see, this asset in front of you, this is an asset that some of the members from different parts of the world have already visited. It's approximately 6,000 acres of land. So just think about this. Here's a property in Texas, approximately 6,000 acres of land, 90 plus producing wells, oil and gas. Its internal rate of return annually is greater than 20%, so a fantastic asset. It's been producing since the 1930s, but they've also expanded the actual production since that time. 90% of the owners of this particular asset are industry experts, are in the game, geologists, engineers, etc. Some of them I've met back in 2004. We know the Catholic Church has just bought into this. They want to give it to their particular fund. So it's a relatively safe asset. This is what we call the legacy asset. So when you're an equity owner, when you own STORH, you are an equity owner in this asset. You own something tangible. And the private placement document is really that legal binding document that gives you the ownership to that, which can be left to the next generation upon our passing, etc. And so these things are really important. Unlike most, let's say, tokens or coins on the blockchain, they are just tokens or coins on the blockchain. What's behind them? And even if they did have a utility or a service or added value, just the blockchain itself is really just a proof of purchase. There's no really bonding of that particular token to the underlying asset to you. So what we've done here in the month of April, I mean, this has been working on for months. It's a large legal document drafted by a lawyer out of Houston, Texas, which is the same area where this actually asset is. He's familiar with it very, very much. So this document, okay, it's got all the normal disclaimer stuff that lawyers have to put in. But the primary part of it, of course, is that it gives you the legal binding ownership of this fantastic asset, which is giving us a great return. So that's the settlement, I believe, is now next month. We're a few months behind on this. In fact, the offer we put on them, Ryan probably touch on it. Let me just see if he's got to be brought in. Ryan will probably touch on that. But the initial offer, when we offered them last year, end of last year, start of this year, they declined on that. But now they've actually, this new offer they've accepted. And Ryan will give you a bit of a story on this, but he first looked at this asset when it came onto the market 7 years ago. So he's been tracking it for 7 years, but then the owners changed their mind. They didn't want to sell. They're in the owners that want to sell, I believe, are in their 80s now. They've been involved in this asset for a very long time, done exceptionally well out of it on the income side. But now they want to, of course, make their life more simpler, I suppose, and liquidate people liquidate assets for various reasons. So they're doing that. And the remaining holders, which are STORH holders, congratulations to all of you. Okay, we have the letter of intent there. We've got to close the deal, of course, early next month. But it's very exciting for us, and to be ownership of this outstanding asset, which is primarily owned by industry. People have been in the industry for 20 years plus. 90% of the ownerships of these types of caliber of people. So that's very comforting, knowing that you own something that is real, something that's going to continue to pay for the next, Ryan says, 20 years. That's what the current reserves show. Although we believe because we're going to redevelop, we're going to reinvest a lot of the proceeds back into this particular asset, because there's future potential there. And this is why Ryan's very excited about this particular this asset himself. I just want to see if he's here, because really this is really his baby in that sense. He knows it inside out. But that's where we are with, of course, the asset in Texas. Now, in February this year, you may have seen on the STORH website that Ryan put a bit of an announcement out. We picked up a couple of smaller assets. We weren't looking for these assets, but when you're in the game, projects that come across your table. Now, these particular assets, they're small, but they met the criteria. When Ryan, we have a vetting process that Ryan and his team have. In this vetting process, one, it's relatively low risk. Its return, it produces more than 20% annualized return. The life of the actual production is more than 10 years. So over the time, and there's also some upside to it as well. And he knows these particular sites, but they're small. But we've already purchased those back in later part of February, which is exciting. So these projects don't normally come onto the table. They don't normally come onto the table. They don't come to the public. Normally they're picked up internally, just like this asset in Texas did. And primarily the industry has picked it up through Ryan and of course Randall Eddington and of course us. Otherwise the other owners. In fact, some of the owners, who is a geologist, and some of the people on this call may have even met him last November. They've increased their stake in ownership in this particular asset as well. So it's very exciting. But we must remember we're at the very beginning. Okay, this is the beginning. There's no question about it. We're all going to do very well out of these particular assets because they are strong assets producing strong cash flows, and there's a lot of upsides to them. But we need to add value to these. We need to add value now to these particular assets so we can get multiple X's on the value of the token. We want to get 5, 6, 7, maybe 8X. So there's a lot of work to be done on these assets to make that, substantiate that value. Now, Ryan, with his analysis, believes, no question about that, we can achieve that based on the revenues, because unlike, if you think about what you see in the crypto world from the 2017, 2018, people are saying, well, the token price now is at 5 cents, it's now at 10 cents, it's now going to 50 cents. What do they base this on? What do they base it on? There's no underlying real asset value there. It's an idea. It's primarily just done on hype. We'll be backing our valuations based on balance sheet, asset value, increased production. So we have something awesome here, but I want people, of course, to understand that it's not a quick rich program. It's not like you're buying a token now for such and such a price, even though the price is increasing because the asset valuation is increasing as we increase the acquisition process of buying assets. Once if you're not willing to ride this out for 12, 18 months to 2 years, really to appreciate the added value in what we've got here, you really shouldn't be in the game. This is a core asset. So when you're bringing people to STORH, when you're bringing people to Utopian Global, tell them what it is. It's an awesome project here, but we have to develop it, we have to nurture it, and we have a strong foundation. And I, as an investor, I think Claudia touched on the story that I invested back with Ryan back in 2004. I put 1 million Australian dollars in, which was 860,000 US. Before I invested in that particular asset, I flew to the US. I met them. I sat down with geologists. I sat down with engineers. I sat down with Ryan and his partner, Justin, and I went over it. I wanted to know where I was putting my money. It was a lot of money I put in for one of my hotel sales. I was involved with that project for nearly 10 years. It was returning, the reason why, of course, I wanted to get in, it was returning approximately 20%, sometimes more, sometimes less. It didn't pay out straight away, because when I put the money there, of course, they've got to apply that money to the actual project. But when the returns came in, they came in strong. So
maybe you want to maybe, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, Bill, but maybe you want to touch on that a little bit, because sometimes people get confused in, okay, so one thing is we raise the money, but then this money needs to actually be applied. Maybe just you want to give some examples on it.
Yeah, and then maybe in the meantime, let me just ping Ryan, because I'm really crossing into his area too. I'll just leave him up. I'm on the call.
Yeah, so maybe I'm gonna talk then about it already.
No, I can talk about it, Claudia.
Okay.
Let me just do this quickly. It's okay. We can multitask, even though I'm a man. Okay, so this is where a lot of confusion sort of comes in. Okay, the assets, all the assets that we're going to buy are going to actually have returns, annualized returns of minimum of 20%. If they don't meet that criteria, we don't want them, unless there's a huge upside to it that we confirm that is there. But I don't think that Ryan would touch it, to be quite honest. Okay, but unlike, of course, if you come from the crypto world, we will buy a crypto mining contract today, and tomorrow, of course, the mining would start paying, because it's just a computer, it's computation, correct? You buy computation power, the computer generates that, and the next day you start to get payouts. Whereas, of course, here we have an asset, a physical asset. The Texas project, as I said, 6,000 acres, 100 wells, just over 90 wells actually, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, we don't even close on this asset until the 17th of May, I believe the date is, okay? So obviously we can't pay out commissions or bonuses or distributions on an asset that we don't actually have right now. But your money, that's where it's going. It's going into that particular asset, and that asset will be producing. So you need to understand this, okay? But we've also designed it. We've also designed the whole Utopian Global platform, just like we did with Swiss Gold Global, where you can get engaged. You can own real tangible assets, which give you an awesome return, and you don't have to mortgage your house. No one has to put themselves at risk here. It doesn't matter. We've had people come in buying $250,000 plus packages of STORH, and much larger as well. I'm negotiating some others right now. But you own a STORH token. If you come in with a 99 euros package, you're the same equalized STORH owner in one sense. STORH is a STORH. It's got the same asset back value in that respect. Okay, so that, and of course, Utopian Global's mission has always been to put, is be able to put wealth in the hands of ordinary people. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what your creed is, what your financial standing is or education. You can get involved into an ecosystem that has real tangible assets, that has very, very strong commissions. So you can generate fast track commissions. You can generate another source of income, very important, have multiple streams of income. And at the same time, you can own real assets, which are all going to also in time produce a fantastic distribution for you. But Ryan's just come onto the call. Hi, Ryan. And I've just been addressing, actually, I've let the cat out of the bag regarding the Texas project that you've signed the letter of, they've accepted the letter of intent. And we're probably settling the 17th of May next, yes, 17th of May, which is a few weeks away. And also touched on, of course, that our first assets that were bought, which you weren't really looking for, but that met the criteria in February. Some smaller assets came across your table. It met the criteria: low risk, high returns, maximum over 20% annualized return, production life more than 10 years. And so you picked it up because it was good, solid, safe, and gave us returns. So that's, I think I've given a lot of information. But anyway, it's great to have my good friend for many, many years and business partner, Ryan, on the call. And maybe you want to touch on things, or maybe people have some questions for us.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Yeah, let me know when questions pop up. Happy to answer those. We've got, as I've been kind of alluding to over the last couple of calls, we've got a lot going on in the background. We're going to be posting an announcement up on the STORH.com website here this evening. But you did let the cat out of the bag, which is great. We did get a letter of intent signed by the sellers last Friday, which is great. So it basically stipulates all the pertinent information, how much we're paying for the property, the closing date, what due diligence items are necessary. So we're moving forward. The next 2 weeks will be extremely busy doing all the, of course, the title work that has to happen because, when we came out there at the end of last year, you were chatting with Pete about how many royalty owners, right? So all of those royalty owners are tied to the individual leases because it's nearly 6,000 acres of a property, which is, it's a huge, huge field. Over 90 plus producing wells or a bunch of well bores that are inactive that we're going to go back and reactivate. Of course, new well bores that we'll drill. So anyway, as a part of the due diligence process before we close and hand money over to the sellers, obviously we need to do all the title checks and those kind of things, which are pretty in depth. But so that's going on now, and yeah, we anticipate on closing sort of middle of May. So a lot to do between now and then. And as you point out, we've already, we've had some production that we bought in February. Again, like you say, it wasn't necessarily highly strategic for us, and we didn't necessarily plan on the timing of it. But came across the desk, small acquisition in the tens of thousands of dollars. But this new acquisition obviously is much greater. It's a multi-million dollar. It's going to be a little over $3 million acquisition for STORH. So, but with that come, one of the reasons why we're buying into the property is the existing internal rate of return, and then of course what we think we can do with the field, which is increase that by 20 to 30%. So and this, of course, just as a base property will generate internal rate of return of over 20 to 25 or so %. So things are looking good. Oil prices are up, which is also great. So obviously the higher the oil and natural gas price, the more revenue we'll receive on a quarterly basis, or a monthly basis, I should say. And we'll begin to aggregate this capital. And once the field is completely paid for, obviously we're going to be looking at some other acquisitions that we've talked about to add, some additional upside for the token holders in there. Not only from a cash flow perspective, but also from a capital growth or the when you look at the token price, it'll obviously move commensurately with the value of the company.
Actually, Ryan, these are good points you're bringing up, because it does get a bit complex. And I know you've taken private companies that I was involved with and you took them public back. This is not the first time you've done such a thing, although we're doing it this time in the form of a token, which is on the blockchain, which is primarily a digital share, correct?
That's right. Yeah, it's no different from what we're doing, really. It's just we're putting it on the blockchain on top of giving people equity in the company.
Okay, but what really excited me back then, and I mean, I like to have leverage. I mean, if you can compound the assets on a particular title holding, you're compounding your return. Now, we know that these assets, you know, the audited bankable engineers reports show that these assets are producing greater than 20%, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
Almost closer to 30, but yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and there's obviously operational expenses, but it's a very, very good return. But let's just say this asset's produce 20% plus per year. So we're looking at 5 years to get our money back, correct?
Right. Just on a pure project basis, yes.
Just on a pure project basis, what the cash flow is doing right now. But what really excites me about this project, as you alluded to on one of the other previous calls, when these owners, I mean, primarily 90% of the owners are industry experts in one sense, been in the game for 20 years. We know that we can take some of the funds from that distributions, from these great revenues it's generating, and I think you mentioned refit some broken wells and also tap into what I think you have proven reserves, and you have proven reserves which have been untapped yet. So there's still quite a bit of potential upside, where I think you mentioned before 25 to 30% increase in revenues, which of course when it comes to the asset value, that's going to create a multiple factor, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So what do you think where we can take the valuation of the asset from where it is now to where it could be in 18 months' time? Are we talking 2x? Are we talking 3x?
I think, well, it comes down to the exit strategy, right? So I think just all along we've been talking about doing a listing of the token. And once we do that, you know, people are going to value what they think the company is worth at that point in time. And they'll look at the future cash flows, they'll look at the projections, they'll look at the field, they'll look at what we've done and all the assets collectively and give a future value for it. But the beautiful thing about the listing is that you capitalize on that, on those future income streams. And so you give people the optionality to either stay in and receive distributions long-term, which we of course still anticipate on doing at some point in time, or you can exit, or you can sell part of your token holdings, if you will, on the open market. And so what I see, and just like any other, you know, IPO, I think a 4 to 5 times, if not even greater, in some opportunity. I think we're going to have that kind of ability in this market, being a real asset-based token, being on multiple exchanges. If we get our marketing right, there's no reason why we can't at least see a 4 to 5 plus X increase in the value of the token at that point in time. I kind of see that as a minimum, really. Because
the picture I'm trying to paint, of course, is that we have in the worst case scenario is we have the revenues. The revenues aren't going to go away. So that is the worst case scenario, that we have the revenues there. Even if it wasn't 5x, the revenues are going to come in at some point. They can be paid out, so people are going to do very well there. But on the short term, of course, we have the opportunity to take the valuation of this asset and the token price when it goes onto an exchange, or maybe we list it on a stock exchange, whichever way we go, which is the right way at that particular time. Which certainly won't be, I don't see it happening in 2019 now, because we're behind our schedule. And we have to realize these changes on these assets as well. But to be able to realize the increase of this asset value in 12 to 18 months to maybe 3, 4x, maybe even 5x, versus, you know, over 5 years getting your money back, I think I like the combination of both. I like the combination that we can resow distributions back into the current assets with the team there. The team is a large team who know this asset very well, increase the revenues, increase the actual asset value, and of course, we could all do well. We could all sell a bit, take back our equity out, and just let the others keep paying us for many years to the future. So it'll be different courses for different people, of course. But I know this is what excited me back in 2004, 2005, 2006, and I'm just speaking about this so sort of people understand the big picture here, because this is a big picture. It's a great asset. It's just the very first asset, which we're just starting at right now. This is phase one.
Yeah, and just to kind of, and as an example, I talked about what STORH is going to be paying for the interest roughly. Let's just call it a few $1 million, right? But the future value of the asset, all the cash flow combined, is going to be way north of $12 million net to the company. So that future cash flow, a lot of that value is going to be realized once we list the token. And again, we talked about our strategy for rolling out the assets for the company. This is what we consider foundational, right? It's not a high growth asset, right? It's already producing, it's existing, it's very safe, low concentration risk, got 90+ producers. It's going to be around for easily over 2 decades, right? Just based on the engineering report that we have today, not including what we're going to find in the future. Because the field over time has actually increased in production, not declined, which is what typically most fields do. And that's because there's so much development potential just in this one asset alone. As I've said many times, I really don't even like buying production, but this is one of those fields that's very unique. I've been tracking it for 7 years, and now, I think we're extremely lucky to have been, or had this made available. And that's, luck, or being defined as, where opportunity meets preparation, right? Because this is not, it didn't just fall in our lap. We've been tracking this asset for a long time. But this will give us the foundation, the solid cash flow that we can take and reinvest into other assets. So we can convert that 20+% internal rate of return, instead of going out and getting new investors and dilute our existing investors, which we have to do anyway to raise additional capital, but it will soften that significantly so we can put into other assets with much, much higher growth potential. I mean, we didn't get into this game for somebody to get their money back in 5 years, right? We went into this game to build a foundation of growth, something very, very stable, and then launch from that into more high growth assets. And then, so by the end of the year and early next year, we're going to have, a handful of assets that we'll be able to go to the market with and show our future value. Say, here it is. Here's our balance sheet. Here's what we're generating in income. Here's the future potential. So we can get that extreme multiple. I mean, in some cases, you see 10 to 20 times value on a listing. So I'm generally pretty conservative when I talk about upside or potential. I usually tie it to numbers that I can put my hands on, right? Reserves and future cash flow, and I talk about all these things. But the Peru project and what we're doing there, this Panama project that we're looking at, some of the midstream sort of sustainable services projects have a much higher rate of return than this asset that we're going to be buying here in May. So the potential for the company, I mean, we're just getting started. We're in our infancy. We're barely walking, and but we're executing on our plan. We're doing exactly what we said we would, maybe a month or two, a little bit behind but hey, but we're following it. And I think people will see that by this time next year, we'll be in a fantastic position to list it and give people the kind of liquidity that they're after, and give them the return on investment so we can go do it again.
Yeah, it's truly exciting, right? And people ask me why STORH did it with Utopian Global, and it's a good question because we didn't have to. We could have just done STORH and raised private equity and had nothing to do with Utopian Global. It would have been actually probably simpler, and we wouldn't have to do with all the other things that come with being involved with an affiliate marketing company, which is positive when it's negative. But I'm really grateful that you understand the mission and purpose of Utopian Global, that we make great assets available to ordinary people that would not normally have any chance of owning something like this, certainly at those types of returns, and to be able to give people another source of income, multiple sources of income. So that's why we have this relationship. You get what we do. You get what we've been doing for many, many years. You source,
and we trust each other. I know that I can just say, Bill, Claudia, here it is, and just lay it on the table, and you would do the same with me. And so there's a huge trust factor there, obviously, but I do share in your vision and your mission for this company. And I love the fact that, I mean, here's this asset. It wasn't even on the market for industry players necessarily be a part of. It's only because, you know, I'm good friends with the geologist and his brother that run the project, that I've been tracking it for so long, that we're able to provide this to people that would just never see it.
And what's also great, you said about integrity. I mean, the team is key. I mean, that's what got me across the line in 2004 was the team was Philip Judge, Simon Heaps, yourself, Justin, and of course, Jay Stewart and the other people, yeah. John Dickinson, all those people associated with it. Just good core, hardworking, very exciting guys. They just love doing what they're doing, and they love creating prosperity, which I like as well, and I'm sure people on this call like also. We've all got a common aim here. It's not about greed, but it's about being involved with smart people, acquiring smart assets so that we can all benefit. But you brought up a point before, which sort of stands out in my mind. If you look at the ICO, and of course you're involved with Fiscal Global regarding the joint venture with Genesis Mining, with the potential joint mining farm we were going to do in the US. But of course, as we all know in this call, the whole mining environment changed, so we didn't pursue that. But what's interesting, if you look at all the ICOs that came out and tokens and coins that came out, you know, you said you produced a balance sheet, which means you're actually bringing out a document that lists the assets and liabilities of a particular underlying asset. Now, I've never seen to this point a token on the that's come out an ICO that says these are our underlying assets that we own. This is what you own, and this is the valuation of these particular assets. I mean, I've never seen that.
Yeah, they can't provide it.
One of the first.
Sure. Yeah, they can't provide it. And you know, the barrier to entry for what we're doing is extremely high. That's why there aren't many people doing what we're doing. So I think in that way, we're very unique. We're going to be positioned extremely well in the market as we grow and execute. And here we are proving that. You know, today we signed an LOI. Of course, 3 weeks later we'll close. Which is where the proof is in the pudding. We'll actually own the asset at that point in time. But I think people will realize we've got a lot of eyes on us watching what we're doing and how we're doing it. A lot of people want to help, you know, grow STORH and be a part of it. So I think, you know, we really appreciate everybody putting faith in us very early on, before we had a website, before we had a token, before we had any of that put together, or a white paper even. So we want to reward all those people. And so I believe we're executing on that, and no doubt they'll see the reward at the end for sure. So, you know, things might not go exactly as planned or exactly on a timeline, but, you know, let's face it, we're not afraid to come out and jump on a video call and tell people exactly what we're doing, why we're thinking what we're thinking, and the decisions that we've got to make. Because sometimes they're not always easy, but certainly we'll give you the truth, and you know, here we are.
Yeah, that's key. I think well, you want a strong management team. I mean, we're writing an asset here that wants to take all of us to prosperity. So we have to have confidence in the strength of the management team, and that's what was proved to me back 15 years ago or something. So, and Sure. It's the same today. So, thanks, Ryan, and thank, of course, Randall and your team for all that you're doing. It's really exciting about the Texas assets.
Likewise, we're all doing this together, so I'm excited, and I think the plan is to have a few people out maybe in May if they can come out. So we've still got to nail down some dates, but yeah, a lot of exciting news coming out, and we'll do some on the ground work here soon. Some nice videos.
So what are you saying, Ryan? Are you saying that we could actually look at the underlying asset that's behind the token?
Yeah, you can.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. You come
so
out.
It's real. It exists.
You can put your hands in it. Heck, you can even take some oil home if you want.
Just don't drink it.
Just don't drink it. No.
Okay, Claudia, back over to you. We had a bit of fun, that's all.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. I mean, you know, the most important thing is for people, because this is really new, of course, to people, and it's sometimes it's really hard to get a very simple explanation and to get their head around. And I liked it the way Bill actually made it in when we had some presentations in right now, just last week in Dubai, and we were in this beautiful hotel there, a really nice hotel. So if you were to, let's say, buy a hotel, and you would basically crowdfund the purchase of this hotel, you don't have the cash, so you put with a few people together, you crowdfund the hotel, but the hotel would have actually the possibility to build another whatever 10 floors or 20 floors on top of it. It hasn't really yet basically built out to its what it could actually produce. So actually what it means, well, in the first stage, you actually need to raise the funds that you can purchase this hotel. Now this hotel is producing, it's already producing, but you want to take this over. But then you don't just want to have it producing, you know what it produces, that's why you want to acquire the hotel, because you know exactly those rooms, they make exactly so much return, but you actually know that you could actually take out more profit, more return if you build some more floors on top of it, because you could increase the revenue. So basically what the foundational asset, to probably paint a picture simple on it, is we're looking at an existing oil field which has a great production. It can actually have an even greater production, but there needs to be money put back in. So from the revenue which it's generating, instead of paying it out, that we take that money and we put it back in, so that we actually can further develop that asset. So this is, I liked very much this explanation when, sort of people then could grasp the idea what we are doing, and that is what we're really doing, I believe, if you correct me if I'm wrong, in our foundation.
Actually, let me just touch on that. It's a good point. And Ryan mentioned just before, he doesn't like to buy production. What does he mean by that? And the metaphor of the hotel is really quite an example. I bought hotels. That was my business. I had 4 hotels over 20 years. I primarily bought hotels that were in receivership. Now, one of the hotels I remember I was looking at, I used to drive past it for years, and I thought, what an awesome place this is. I just love the feel and look of it. And it went into receivership. An Irishman owned it. I think he paid $4 million for it, and it was passed in an auction for $1.6 million. I think it was 2,000 square meters of land, producing about $2 million in revenue. It was an awesome business. And I remember going into the day of the auction, going in, I was listening to some people talk, and they said how bad this place is, how this is, and how negative it was. And I was thinking to myself, this is absolutely awesome. Imagine if the place was producing those types of numbers and you had no improvements to make to it. You couldn't go anywhere. So the point Ryan's really making about production is that you go into a perfect site, there's no upside to develop it further. You're paying the goodwill. You're not actually you're paying the full retail price and the capitalized price for the improvements on that particular site. This is the advantage we have with this particular asset. Ryan's coming in there with a hotel that maybe have 1,000 rooms, but only 700 of the rooms are available for rent, for lease. And he's going to develop, the floors are there, but it's not fitted out for the other 300 rooms. This is the potential that we have, really, with the assets we're looking at there. That's going to increase the revenues. That's going to increase substantially the asset value. And that's how I made money out of selling hotels. And I sold that hotel for 5x. It was a 5-year term, but I sold it for 5x. It was a fantastic project, actually. That's pretty much how it works, Ryan, yes?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, we're not going to look at any assets that we can't improve by way of efficiency, by reducing the expenses or increasing the revenue. We just won't look at it. And so most production out there today is being sold because they've maximized the efficiency or they've maximized the revenue out in the field, and there's very little room for upside. This field, I think, still has, I think there are millions of barrels that haven't even been discovered yet, or not even in the proved, well, certainly not in the proved category, but not even put in the probable or the possible category. They're way out somewhere in contingent or not even on the scale. So I think for us, there's certainly room for efficiency, some room for efficiency. I think the operator's done a great job with the field, but certainly a lot of room for upside and development. I mean, nearly 6,000 acres, they're just finding formations that they never knew were productive before. And so I think we're going to be able to do a lot with this field. We talked about it in our presentation about we've got to be able to improve the asset. We've got to have the team to execute. and have limited competition. And this asset meets all three of those sort of macro criteria. So.
Thank you, Ryan. That is fantastic. And I just have here the slide up, but you already touched on it, so there's no really need to go over that again here. So we're going to definitely increase the price. That's what people also want to know. By, of course, 1st of May, we definitely stick to that, correct?
You must be muted, Ryan.
Yeah, I think I actually just muted it. We are going to do that, and we have to do it to tie the net asset value of the company to the number of tokens that we've issued and the capital that we've raised. Now, again, this isn't taking future value and rating the company based on future value. It's just purely valuing the company based on the acquisitions that we're making today. So when I said, if this particular acquisition is a little over $3 million, future value of this asset is $12 to $15 million. They still have all of that, even after this re-rating of the price of the tokens, all of that value is still left in the value of the asset for those token holders that get in after this date. This is simply just to kind of bring everything up to date and true up the value of the company, because it's not floated like a stock is on the stock market, where the market makes the price. We have to value it, and we have to re-rate the value of the token to reflect that. So,
and that's based on asset value, of course.
That's it. Yeah, that's just based on what we're owning. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I'd just like to touch on there, I mean, this slide, we are a bit behind our schedule. I really don't see the token being listed on the exchange Q4 of 2019. It could happen, but I think it's more like going to be 2020.
Yeah, it's wishful thinking for 2019. I mean, we still have a lot to do. What I don't want to do is list the token prematurely, because people have to remember, it's not like, what was the movie with the ball field that you build it and they will come. If we list it, it doesn't mean there are buyers there, right? We have to create the buyer. We have to create buyers by building a marketing story around it, right? We have to have the assets that we want to acquire under acquisition or locked down in certain ways. So I want to get the company to a certain point of valuation, and then we've got to go into marketing mode where we can let the market that's not a current token holder know what we've got and understand the upside potential, so that all of our existing token holders have a market to sell into. Otherwise, it's going to fall flat like most all the other tokens on the market. And again, they have no balance sheet to point to, and that's the difference between them and STORH. We will. So we'll have cash flow. We'll have a tremendous amount of future value to go and promote to the world, for that matter, on potentially multiple crypto exchanges. So I think what we've got here is, is a good roadmap, but no doubt we should be able to meet or exceed these expectations, in my mind.
But be patient, people.
Be patient.
Wealth takes time, but if you with the right team, it's going to happen. And Ryan needs a bit of breathing space there to do it, but we have an awesome team there. And I'm actually pretty pumped about it. Actually, I'm more than pretty pumped. I'm very pumped about this asset.
I'm extremely pumped. Yeah, we've got a lot.
Ryan, and Ryan, just quickly also, because Bill touched on it a little bit, but again, like, it's all about simplification for people to understand it. Must be so super simple. Otherwise, because people are not from this field, are not the expert like you are.
Yep.
And so when funds are raised, when money is coming in, it doesn't mean that the money is straight away employed. It's going to take time to employ that money, correct? Can you maybe elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. Yeah. A perfect example is, we started raising money in November. We started issuing tokens, and we had a lot of what we're calling, seed investors that are probably listening on this call. And thank you for joining at that point in time. You've done really well because the price of the token has increased over time, but your capital that you invested in STORH through the Utopian global platform has been sitting in our bank account. Okay, so it's literally just been sitting there as cash looking for this right acquisition. And these are how these things work. You have to have the cash, you know, we're always looking for assets and we're always evaluating assets. But to truly be able to negotiate and come to the table and sign an LOI and get everyone in their seats to make the acquisition, we have to have the cash in hand. And so it's very important that investors understand that there is a little bit of a lag time there between the time they invest and the time the capital is deployed. But obviously, as we grow, that's going to be a little bit more easier to manage. It's always difficult in a startup environment, but I think things have aligned for us quite well. I mean, it's, you know, I think we were looking for a March closing, but you know, we're May, so we're a little bit behind, but not behind in my mind, because we're executing on the plan. We're buying the assets that we set out to acquire, and you know, we're still building. I mean, we're going to be releasing a revised version of the white paper, which will simplify things, I think, for a lot of folks. We cut it nearly in half, and we'll have some more marketing tools and various things, and a pitch deck and all that coming out as well. So we are trying to simplify the message, because, you know, everyone has different needs, but certainly we're the ones driving the ship, so we have to do what's right for everybody collectively, and that's what we're doing. So.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. And I know we need you on the Spanish call tonight as well, which is going to start in 2.5 hours from now. So we need you again to pull out your sleeves, your Spanish.
Very rough. I think I'll need you on that call, Claudia.
All right. Okay. Anyhow, but so basically that's it. Maybe Bill, some updates on of course people expecting from the SAFT now going to the ERC 223. Any updates on that?
Yes, it's progressing. We had, I mean, Ryan and myself had long calls today with our engineers, and it's progressing well. Yeah, I mean, we're all a little bit behind, but it's very close to being completed, and it will happen. And you'll also get instructions how to create your wallet for your STORH wallet, which would be an Ethereum wallet, of course. All those instructions will come out, but we just need a little bit more time for that. And we thank you for your patience and understanding, and as Ryan said, your trust and your vision. But this is a really exciting project.
Fantastic. Well, with that, basically, then we are in the top of the hour. We're not going to go into the affiliate program, etc., because this was really more so an update call today. So I thank you so much for all your people to listen to the presentation. And we're going to have, of course, another presentation on Saturday. There are some news coming out. So basically, there will be in different languages the news update coming out. Ryan also mentioned on STORH will be an update coming out. So please expect that by this week, because we of course coming up to the end of the week, and we said regarding those distributions which are due to. So with that, basically, I want to say thank you again. Understand that STORH token is not to be sold in the United States, so we cannot promote it there nor sell it there. And basically, contact the person that invited you to the presentation, ask them question, have them, answer whatever or you need to be answered, or send an email to contact to support@utopianglobal.com. If they don't know how to answer you the question, invite people to today's call. Saturday we do have another one, and I know a lot of leaders. They're doing a lot of calls at many different hours. There's a lot of live presentations as well going on. We had some great presentations, I believe, recently in South Africa, as well in UK. We had in Dubai. There's daily presentations going on all over Latin America, basically every country in Latin America, even Venezuela. Yes, there are presentations going on, which is also great. So there's lots of live things happening. I know there Australia as well. You guys are really, keeping it up. Building and also our folks in Africa. So fantastic, you're all doing a great job, and that's the result of it, that we may be a little bit behind the schedule, but we are well on track with everything what of course we have said we would do. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Richard, for your nice comment. A team of people with integrity, foresight, very refreshing. I'm happy too as well, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Good night to you.